they have looked, not casually, not in the specific half-present quality of someone who glances around and settles on whatever is nearby, with the specific, earnest, I genuinely want to understand what is available quality of someone who has been paying attention to the full landscape of what connection can be, and who has been paying that attention for long enough to have developed an accurate picture of the distribution. They have looked at what is available, and what is available, when it does not include you, is not sufficient. Not because nothing else is appealing, because nothing else is real in the specific way that what exists between you is real. Because the particular quality of what you offer, what you are, what the specific living connection with you produces in them, is not something that appears in approximation form elsewhere, is not something that can be reached through proximity to anyone else. It only exists here with you. And they have arrived at that understanding through the one method that produces genuine understanding rather than simply theoretical knowledge, direct experience. I want to begin with what choosing means, because choosing is the word the title uses, and it deserves its full examination before we go anywhere else. Choosing is active. This is the specific quality that distinguishes it from the other forms that preference can take. Hoping is passive, wishing is passive, even wanting has a quality of passive reception, of something arising in the person who experiences it without the person having had to do anything to produce it. Choosing requires the person to do something, to engage the will, to move from the interior experience of wanting into the external act of deciding, to take what has been present in the private space of feeling and bring it into the specific, irreversible, cannot be taken back territory of decision. This person has done that, not in a formal, official, here is my declaration sense, in the prior, more fundamental sense of the interior having reached a conclusion that precedes and underlies any external expression. In the specific, settled quality of someone who has moved past uncertainty and possibility and the various open questions that the earlier stages of this produced, and who exists now in the territory of having decided, you are the decision. Let me describe what the process of arriving at this choice looked like, because choices of this weight do not arrive instantaneously, and the process of arriving at them carries its own information about the quality of the choice. There was a period of comparison, not a deliberate, analytical, I am going to systematically evaluate my options, period. The organic, experience-based life happens and you learn from it, period, in which other things, other people, other available forms of connection were encountered and engaged with and found to be producing something that occupied a different register than what you produce, a lower register, not because the others were without value or without their own qualities that were real and present, because the specific register that you occupy in this person's experience is not shared by the other things that were encountered, is not accessible through any other channel, is the specific, irreplaceable quality of a particular person's particular presence in someone's life. And the register gap is what produced the choosing. when you have encountered something at a particular register and then encountered everything else at a lower register, the comparison is not difficult, the conclusion is not uncertain, the choice is not a hard one. It is simply the accurate naming of what experience has demonstrated. You are the higher register. You are the only available source of that register. You are the choice. You are the choice. I want to describe what the register gap actually feels like from the inside of the person experiencing it. Because it is a specific internal quality, and naming it precisely will help you understand the depth of what produced the choosing. It feels like something being missing, not a general diffuse sense of incompleteness that might be attributed to any number of things. The specific, pointed, I know what is absent quality of someone who has encountered the full version of something and who therefore knows with uncomfortable precision what is lacking in everything else. The full version is what you are. The knowing of what is lacking in everything else is the aftermath of having encountered you. And the aftermath is not neutral. It is not simply the academic understanding that something different was possible. It is the lived, daily, cannot be ignored quality of someone who is continuously being reminded by the specific absence of what you provided that what they want is not present in the available alternatives. This reminder is what drives the choosing, not in the theoretical sense of concluding from logic that you are the best option. In the practical, experienced, I have tried to find this elsewhere and cannot sense of someone who has run the experiment that was available and whose results point with undeniable clarity in one direction, toward you. M. I want to speak to what only choice for real love actually means, because the phrase deserves its honest unpacking. Real love is a specific thing, not the general category of caring about someone or finding someone appealing or building something functional and pleasant with another person that occupies the space designated for connection in the structure of a life. Those things are real. They have their own value. They are part of the full landscape of what human connection can be. But real love is something more specific than any of those. Real love is the specific experience of recognizing another person as genuinely necessary, not necessary in the practical, this person performs important functions in my life sense, necessary in the specific, felt. I cannot imagine a version of what I am building that does not include this person quality of someone for whom the connection has moved beyond the territory of what is pleasant or valuable or enriching and into the territory of what is simply what they are oriented toward, without negotiation, without the weighing of pros and cons that optional things require, the way that things which are genuinely necessary for you simply are what they are. You have become what is genuinely necessary for this person, not through any effort or strategy on your part, through the specific, entirely authentic quality of who you are and what the encounter with who you are has produced in them over the full course of however long this has been developing. You have become what is genuinely necessary for this person, not through any effort or strategy on your part, through the specific, entirely authentic quality of who you are and what the encounter with who you are has produced in them over the full course of however long this has been developing. I want to give one more dimension to what genuine necessity feels like, because necessity is a strong word. and understanding why it applies here will help you receive the weight of what is being offered. Genuine necessity in the context of love is not dependency, not the specific unhealthy quality of someone who cannot function without another person and who therefore holds that person in a grip that is less about love and more about fear of absence. That is a different thing, and it does not describe what is here. What genuine necessity looks like in a healthy form is orientation, the specific quality of someone who, in the ordinary texture of their daily life, finds themselves naturally oriented toward a particular person, who processes things with that person in mind, who evaluates things through the lens of what the connection with that person represents, who finds that the full, rich, genuinely lived quality of their daily life has a particular flavor when this person is present in it, and a specifically different flavor when they are not. Not a worse flavor in the collapsing sense. The specific, particular, exactly what I want flavor that is only available from this source. That orientation, that flavor, that particular irreplaceable quality of what you bring to the texture of their experience, that is the necessity, and it is real. Let me describe what being the only choice for real love actually looks like in this person's interior. It looks like the absence of genuine conflict. When someone is still in the space of considering options, the interior has a particular quality, a restlessness. The specific, ongoing, requires energy quality of someone whose orientation has not yet settled, who is still producing and evaluating possibilities, who has not yet arrived at the specific, settled, this is what is true quality of someone who has completed the internal process. This person's interior does not have that restlessness about you, about other things probably. Life is full of genuinely unresolved questions and genuinely active deliberations. But about this, about you specifically, about the specific question of whether you are what they want and need and have chosen, there is no restlessness. There is the settled, clear, this has been established quality of someone who has moved past the phase of the question and into the phase of simply living inside the answer. The answer is you. I want to speak to something about what this means for what comes next, because the choosing is the interior reality, and the question of how the interior reality becomes the exterior one is the question that has practical weight for you. The choosing is already complete. What is in process is the expression of the choosing. Those are two different things. And understanding the distinction between them is the most practically useful piece of this reading for your navigation of what is happening. The expression of the choosing requires form, requires a moment that feels right, requires the specific contextual conditions that allow the interior certainty to come forward into the space between you in a way that corresponds to its significance, that does not diminish it, that does not reduce it to something smaller than it is by offering it in a form that is too casual for what is actually being offered. The finding of the form takes time, but what is being found is not the substance. The substance is established. What is being found is the specific, adequate, this will carry the full weight container for a substance that has been ready for longer than the container has been The container is being prepared. Tell me in the comments if you can feel this. If the settled quality I am describing, the absence of restlessness in this person's energy in relation to you, is something that matches what you have been sensing, whether the choosing I am describing has a quality of recognition for you rather than a quality of surprise, I want to know how this is reaching you. I want to speak to something that I think is the most significant piece of this entire reading. They have chosen you for what you actually are, not for a projected version of what they hoped you might be, not for a convenient version that fits into the specific shape of what they thought they needed, not for any of the several forms in which people sometimes believe they are choosing another person when they are actually choosing a concept or a fantasy or a particular quality of experience that the other person is providing. They have chosen you specifically with the full knowledge that comes from having actually seen you, from having been present for the moments when you are not managing the impression, when you are simply in the ordinary, daily, unremarkable quality of being who you are in a life that has demands and difficulties and the full, unvarnished texture of actual existence. They have seen that texture and chosen it, not despite it, not as a concession to the reality that perfect is unavailable, because the specific, real, genuine quality of who you actually are is more valuable to them than any idealized alternative. Because the real version of you, encountered in the full, unsimplified form of actual daily life, is more compelling than any version that was constructed from the selective presentation of best qualities. That choosing of the actual is the deepest form of being chosen. It means they are not going to be disappointed by the discovery of what you are, because they have already made the discovery, and the discovery produced the choosing. I want to speak to what real love, once chosen, actually produces in the person who has chosen it, because this is the forward-looking piece, and it matters for understanding what this choosing means for the chapter that is beginning. Clarity, the specific, clean, no more uncertainty quality of someone who has moved out of the ambiguous, open question territory of not yet decided and into the specific, functional, what do I do with this territory of having decided, whose energy, previously dispersed across the various options and deliberations that the not yet decided state requires, is now freed from that dispersal and available to be directed toward you. The clarity produces direction, and direction in someone who has chosen you means movement. Consistent, reliable, in the same direction, over time movement toward whatever the choosing produces in the practical, external, living the life reality of two people who have been circling something and who have finally arrived at its center. That movement is already initiated. You may not see all of it yet. The internal clarity precedes the external evidence of it, and the external evidence takes whatever time it takes to catch up to where the interior has already arrived. But the interior has arrived. The movement is underway, and the direction is toward you. But the interior has arrived. The movement is underway, and the direction is toward you. I want to describe what that movement looks like in its early stages, because it has already begun, and knowing what it looks like will help you recognize it in what is already happening. It looks like increased presence, not necessarily increased frequency of contact or increased visibility in your physical world. The specific quality of being more present when they are present, of the interactions that do occur having a different weight to them. of something in the quality of how they engage with you when the engagement happens, being more deliberate, more fully there, more in the territory of someone who is not simply engaging, but who is engaging with an awareness of what the engagement means. It looks like the quality of attention shifting from the attention that someone pays to a person they find interesting to the attention that someone pays to a person they have chosen. The difference between those two qualities is subtle but real. One is curious, the other is certain. And the certainty produces a quality of attention that is not looking for confirmation or gathering information, but that is simply fully present in the experience of you. And it looks like the small things, the specific, seemingly incidental quality of someone who remembers, who tracks the small things about you that they have no practical reason to track, who brings up something you mentioned weeks ago, who asks about something you said was important to you, who notices when something has changed in your demeanor or your circumstances in a way that tells you they have been paying a quality of attention that only people who have already decided something pay. Those things are already happening, and they are the early expression of the interior certainty arriving in the exterior world. Let me speak to how you receive being chosen in this way, because being genuinely chosen in the complete, real you version of yourself for real love is one of the rarer experiences available to a human being, and it deserves a quality of receiving that honors what is being offered. Receive it as real. That is the instruction, and I want to give it its full content because there is a specific Virgo quality of protective skepticism that can arrive in the face of something good, and that can, if not recognized and gently addressed, produce a quality of reception that prevents the full landing of what is being offered. The protective skepticism is not wrong. It was built through real experience of things that look like this and were not, of things that presented at the same register and then did not maintain it, of the specific educational quality of having had the experience of being certain and then discovering the certainty was premature. The skepticism built from those experiences is intelligent, but there is a moment when something genuine arrives where the protective skepticism becomes the thing that prevents the genuine from fully landing, where the intelligence of caution becomes the obstacle to receiving what is actually there. That moment is this one. What is being offered is real. The choosing is complete. The love is specific to who you actually are. Let it in. As we close, I want to give you one image. Two people who have been in the particular charged, unresolved territory of something that has not yet been fully named between them, and then the naming. Not dramatic, the specific, quiet, certain quality of something that has been true for a significant time being finally offered in a form that makes it officially true between them. That moves it from the interior of one person into the shared space of two. That completes in the external world something that has been complete in the internal world for longer than the external world has known about it. The choosing becoming the offering becoming the beginning of the chapter that real love, genuine and specific, and arrived at through the direct experience of who you actually are, produces. That chapter, Virgo, is opening, and you are its center. You always were.